Hi guys, my name is Allison and I happen to be the charter manager for Motor Yacht Tug. You'll see that there's probably a video attached to this one, hopefully that'll show you the roundabout tour of our vessel. But the most important part about our vessel isn't just the way it looks. It's actually about the reason why we're chartering it. And the reason why we're chartering it is to be able to give money to a foundation called Fantastic Oceans, which is close to my heart in particular. I grew up with a sailing background in Stony Brook, New York, where I had a mentor that taught me basically about marine science. And I long ago fell in love with the sea. And luckily enough, I had an aunt who was a marine biologist as well. And I'll never forget going into the Coney Island Aquarium and actually seeing the stingray exhibit for the first time and seeing what a real laboratory looked like. And I was just blown away. And I remember seeing Jacques Cousteau's submarine, the first submarine that was ever made. And I still remember the pink bubble coat that I was wearing when I actually went. And it was from then on, my mother put me into a marine science camp and got me involved in sailing. And the way that we would get to the beaches was by sailing. So I fell in love with sailing. I grew up boating. And by the time I was 14 or 15 years old, I ended up being able to help support and build a marine science and educational summer program for young kids. And it was rising fourth grade through rising seniors in high school. And what we would do is we would bring them out on the sailboats and we would take them to local beaches. They would collect different marine organisms. And then after the marine organisms would be collected, we'd bring them back to the lab and they could identify them. So it was a really unique idea and we were able to grow it into a really cool program. It went from a 12-student program to a 120-student program. We had a fleet of over 30 different boats, and what it did was it taught responsibility, it taught accountability for your actions, it taught teamwork, and it also gave kids a great sense of self-esteem. So that's my passion on the water, and Fantastic Oceans is going to enable me to sell charters on yacht that basically is going to fund conscious consumption, the ability to assist with conscious consumption. And we all know how detrimental plastics are to our environment. Well, this yacht is actually going to be able to provide some sort of support and actually take care of and educate guests about conscious consumption and about plastics and about how to use it. So I'm super honored and I'm super lucky to be able to offer this beautiful yacht for charter, and I hope you guys come and check it out real soon.
I'm Rachel Pereira, one of the founders of Fantastic Oceans, and we came upon Fantastic Oceans because we've been boaters all our life from the Caribbean, and we love the ocean and we just want to preserve it. So we've noticed for many years now that the plastics have been hindering the oceans, and we just wanted to be able to preserve the oceans and teach people, educate people, whether it's school level or it is just the community itself, but educate all the coastal communities and also the communities that are not coastal, because it ends up in the ocean no matter what, and educate people to not pollute the plastics with plastics. So if they have conscious consumption and they know, well, they're using plastics, what do they do with the plastics? How can they make a difference to be able to make sure that the plastics don't go into the ocean? So that's pretty much the mission or intention of Fantastic Oceans.
My name is Paul Pereira, Dr. Paul Pereira. Fantastic Oceans is about educating the communities and the people that have any involvement with marine life in the oceans about how to be conscious about the consumption of what they use and how to use it sensibly and dispose of it. This is not about plastics and it's bad or good. It's about if we use anything, how we use it and how we dispose of it and how we manage it while we're out on the ocean. And if we learn that, education is knowledge and knowledge is power. And that education gives us the opportunity to allow us to manage what we do while we're on the ocean. Imagine a fish that is eating little plastic pieces every day, thinking it's food, and his stomach gets filled. Like any one of us, when our stomach's filled, we feel that we're not hungry anymore. But a fish doesn't know the difference between eating plastic and eating food. And his stomach gets filled, and all of a sudden, he stops eating because he's full, and he dies of starvation because his stomach is full of plastic. We can stop that. We want to educate the people that use plastic, because if they use it sensibly and wisely and dispose of it in the correct manner, you'll find that we will be able to align and not treat plastic as this demon item, because plastic is now being recycled and made into all kinds of things like houses and stuff, as you said, and it's good if you could use it sensibly and dispose of it sensibly. Now you don't impact the marine life in the oceans any more than it has been. And the reason that people create the problem is because they're not educated, they're not aware. So to them, throw away the plastic bag over, throw over this plastic, throw over that, get rid of it, but not realizing that what their action is, that one simple action of throwing a bag into the water is going to potentially kill a fish. That one simple action of when you're fishing and your line and you've got 3 feet of line that you just need to clip, and you just cut it and throw it out, that line is potentially going to wrap around a seagull or a pelican, and you will choke them or starve them to death. When you take a 6-pack plastic holder and you throw it overboard, not thinking, because you open the bear, you empty out the six bears, and you take the 6-pack, you just pitch it. That 6-pack could potentially suffocate a turtle's shell as they grow, because these marine lives, they don't see the plastic 6-pack holder, they don't see the 5 feet of nylon line, they don't see the plastic bag, the life cycle of some of these products and how they end up into the oceans. And we don't just go and clean up the beaches. For example, there was a beach cleanup in California where they picked up 60,000 Q-tips that came up on the ocean in all different sizes. But if we don't wait for the problem to occur and then provide some cleanup solution, but rather start from the source, who is the human being. We are the source of the problem, because we're the ones that take the plastic and throw it into the ocean, take the plastic and let it blow off of the boat. So if we educate the coastal communities and the captains of the boats and the people that come on the boats and the young children, we are beginning to tackle the problem at its source. So we make it interesting. For example, I was talking to Timothy, when we go to Bahamas, we'll go buy fishing rods from Target, and we'll get the kids there to come and we'll talk to them about it and talk to them about the preservation of the oceans and stuff, and they're listening, because they know once they finish they're going to get a little rod to go and fish with. It's a big thing for those kids, and so
And they know.
And they know, and yeah,
properly be responsible.
and you're not only you teach a man, don't give a man food, teach him how to grow his food, or teach him how to catch his food, and catch what you eat, and don't overfish, and be cognizant of what you're doing. I mean, we'll teach them about the lure and the line and leaving that stuff in the water for some fish to swallow it because it affects them, and but also just generally don't throw your plastic cup in the water. Don't throw your plastic fork after you ate the Kentucky into the water, because it's going to damage the marine life in the ocean, A study was done years ago with the Q-tip, and this is the life cycle of the Q-tip, end of life. So I use a Q-tip. Most people take a Q-tip and they throw it into the toilet and they flush it. That water goes through the system of all the cleaning and all the machinery, and then it goes, after it's cleaned, it goes out, and it goes out into the ocean, right? It's got to be disposed somewhere. So, these kind of cycles. I mean, the typical one with the turtle and the 6-pack plastic holding, where you have that 6-pack, and the turtle swims through it, and it grows, and the shell grows around the 6-pack. eventually that turtle will die because it doesn't have the proper shell and it hasn't grown and the way it's supposed to grow. And if you're bringing a 6-pack of beer on the boat, take that plastic and take it off before you bring it onto the boat. Every time I stock this boat, I make sure that all the plastic is off the boat before we leave the port, because one loose piece of plastic floats into the water and it's going to damage some form of marine life, you know. I learned about this and that, and that's how you start to teach and educate people in coastal communities. I mean, there's some restaurants around here that have tried, and there's some that just don't care. And we went into a restaurant the other day, and I counted in one bag to get one order out. There were over 10 pieces of plastic packaging that was in there. You can come in here and stand by the marina right here and look and see plastic bottles gathering and floating in, just sitting in the corner. Aware of what your actions and consequences of your actions are, you're going to be a little bit more thoughtful about what you do. If you don't know what happens, then you don't care. You know, I guarantee you 90% of the people that get on these yachts every day to go boating have no clue what happens if a plastic bag or a plastic 6-pack holder falls in the water. They have no idea what they could potentially kill. And I think if they are aware of that, that education and knowledge is power, and it will make them more conscious, and that's why we come back to conscious consumption. So that education of coastal communities through different programs, both here in the Bahamas, is a big start for us, because we you know, from there it can go to every coastal community, because that's where it's most concentrated. I mean, you know, there's all kinds of other impacts that happen that we can't solve all the problems in the world. We have to be focused on some of them, you know. But I'll give you an example of some of the other ones. You know, all the nitrates that roll off the farmlands down in South America, because they've deforested all that stuff, and they now are fertilizing, and that nitrate goes into the water, and the seaweed grows, is actually kills the part of the ecosystem. And I mean, you see it when I was in Grenada. There were seaweed piled 10, 20 feet high because they had no machinery to take care of it, and it was just coming in and just clogging the bays and stuff, and that was a direct result of the nitrates and fertilizers. So there are many things that, you know, there are many other things that have to be tackled, but you can't do everything all at once. So, you know, so what we are focused on is that conscious consumption and education of coastal communities, boaters and charter captains alike, so that they can be aware and have that knowledge to know that, hey, let's not do this, don't do this. And maybe when they now get people on the boats, they can say, listen, they give them a quick 2-3 minute introduction as 12 people come on a boat, saying, you know, if you throw your bag off the boat, this is what's going to happen. So be very conscious about how you consume this stuff, and make sure this stuff is secure, because it's going to wind blow it off. Put it in somewhere where it doesn't blow off, or don't bring it on the boat at all. So those are the things that, again, you know, education, knowledge, power, conscious consumption of coastal communities to preserve the marine life in the oceans. And plastic is not the enemy. It's us. We are the ones that are throwing the plastic into the ocean. And if we're wiser and we are more aware and educated about how we consume and use plastic and any other material that will be damaging to the ocean and marine life, we are able to preserve that resource. 70% of the planet is ocean, and we need to preserve this. And this is what we call conscious consumption.